Good evening, folks. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Curveball Convos. We got a three-man crew tonight for y'all. We're gonna bring it to you on a Wednesday. We got obviously some big games in the Carolinas tomorrow. The headliner being State Carolina, which myself will probably be at, as well as Reed if we can. Maybe Reed, right? You're not sure
Yeah,
yet.
chance. We'll see if the weather
We'll
permits.
see if the weather holds off. But anyways, tonight we're gonna bring you a nice little preview show. We're gonna go over the midweeks from yesterday and Wednesday tonight, just briefly, and then the main basis of the show will be the Field of 64 projection that just came out on our page yesterday. If you haven't checked that out, go follow us on X if you don't already, and we're going to be posting those weekly up until the selection show in a couple of weeks. So that'll be the main portion, and then we'll kind of preview the weekend series there at the end. It should be a shorter show, but we'll see what we can get out for you guys. So we got Reed and Colby tonight. How you guys doing, Reed?
Doing well. Ready for another exciting weekend, and we'll get started tomorrow night.
Yeah. Colby, how's it going?
Yeah, going good. Good old Wednesday edition with the three games tomorrow.
First one ever.
Yeah. We forgot. I mean, we got Coastal playing ULM, and our favorite South Carolina Gamecocks also play tomorrow night against Auburn. So.
Yeah, that's right. I did see they moved that game up tomorrow an hour earlier, I believe, to 7 p.m. Eastern time. They'll be taking on the Auburn Tigers. Should be an interesting one down there. Let's start with Tuesday's action. We got, I think there was 8 games total. So we started the day off with East Tennessee State beating UNC Asheville 12-5. UNC Asheville has not been very good in midweeks this year. I don't think they're a 14-15 win team at this point, but they still have a chance to possibly make that Big South tournament, which we'll touch on them later. I think they're in our pick'em this week, which we will announce tonight. Presbyterian Wofford played last night. Presbyterian also played tonight. Wofford did get the best of them 7-2. Again, didn't watch much of these games. I did watch a little bit of Campbell in North Carolina and Clemson and Coastal, which we'll get to. Campbell, North Carolina, Reed, I don't know if you got to watch any of it. It was a pretty good ball game for the Heels. They took control early and just kind of ran away with it. I did notice they were throwing DeCaro, which was interesting with the week off. What do you think of that? And do we expect to see maybe a different rotation this week against State, or do you think he'll throw on Sunday?
No, I think Forbes just wanted to, with the weekend they had off this past weekend, keep some of his top guys. When you don't pitch for over a week, that's tough. You don't know how you're going to come out and pitch after that time off. He didn't pitch much yesterday. So I mean, I fully expect he'll go this weekend. We'll probably start game 3. But
do you know what his line was yesterday by chance?
No, I'll look it up. I mean, I can't imagine he went that long.
Yeah.
I know Forbes had mentioned that I saw this past weekend that he admitted that he might throw one of our starters just a couple innings.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see them just kind of take control of that game. Obviously, you expect that with a good arm like DeCarroll on the mound and the year that Campbell's been having. You expect to beat them at home, especially. Rom Kellis with a big swing. He kind of broke the game open. I know he's kind of struggled a little bit this year, but if we can get him going as another right-handed bat option.
He's had a couple of good at-bats the past couple of games, too. And
yeah,
he played some in the midweeks last week and hit the wall well, too.
That's right. I mean, he started off the year pretty hot and in the lineup most of the time. He kind of went on a spurt where he was not playing as much, some other guys outperforming him. So you're going to need all the options you can get, especially this time of year, right? So,
and then I guess DeCaro pitched 5 innings. Wow, I didn't.
Yeah, I thought it was more than I expected.
And Ryan Lynch pitched 2 innings. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? DeCaro, maybe he might not pitch this week.
Yeah, he'll pitch Sunday, I bet.
I believe so too, Colby. I think you could see a variety of arms on Sunday. He might go shorter on Sunday, depending on how the series plays out. But I mean,
he only threw 16 pitches.
I think Forbes is just trying to get his guys some work. I mean, that with the week off, you want to get your best guys out there if you can, even if it's just for a couple of innings. And then, I mean, you got to pitch well to beat a team like Campbell, despite the year that they're having. Of course, we saw the social media sent them back to nowhere. There was a little bit of back and forth on that, but good win for the Heels nonetheless. High Point went to Charlotte last night. Reed, I know this was a game you were talking about possibly going to if you were in town, but you were not in town. Colby, were you able to see any of this? I know Charlotte with a big win at home against High Point.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch, but caught up on the highlights. High Point jumped off to a early 4-0 lead, and Charlotte scored 7 unanswered runs, including I think it was a 2 or 3 run home run by Dawson Bryce, who's been pretty hot lately, and held on from there, which is a really good one for Charlotte after a tough weekend losing at Rice. I mean, High Point's a really good team, so taking one from them, even if it's just a midweek, is an impressive one.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt this Charlotte team, they kind of needed a win like that to kind of propel them into the end of the season here with the American tournament on the horizon. I think they're going to want to win that thing. I think, like, obviously to get in the tournament they'll have to, but like I could just see this team with the talent they have on that lineup, up and down, 1 through 9, they're pretty solid. And with an arm like Gillespie who could potentially throw twice in a tournament setting, you got to be confident if you're the 49ers going into Clearwater, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think they have all the tools to make a run. I think they're still tied for second in the American, even with after the series loss against Rice, and UTSA is a distant first. But I mean, they're right there at the best one in the middle of the pack, so top of the pack actually. But I think there's 3 teams tied for second. I can't remember the other 2, but I mean they're right there.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. High Point, I don't know who they have this weekend. I just talked to someone about it the other day, but I can't remember. But they will want to finish Big South play strong to make sure they get that 1 or 2 seed to get the bye, which I'm pretty certain them in Upstate will get those top 2 seeds.
They have Gardner-Webb this weekend.
Gardner-Webb, okay. Citadel versus College of Charleston yesterday, and this one got ugly. College of Charleston's been playing a lot better ball as of late, at a good time. They got a series win against William & Mary, I think, on the weekend, and a 14-1 victory over the Citadel last night in Charleston. Coastal and Clemson was the headliner last night, fellas, and I mean, what a crowd down there in Conway. If you turned that stream on, it was pretty impressive to see the bank filled up there on the foul line. I'm sure they had some deals going on and stuff.
Dollar dog night, half off beer.
Yeah, I mean, they take it to the Tigers yet again. They do the season sweep over them 2 games. I mean, just impressive. Coastal's for real. We've said it all year. And does this put them now in front of the Tigers? Maybe. I know we did our Field of 64 kind of before this result, but do you think they have a chance to, 1, be in front of the Tigers, and 2, be a national seed, top 8?
Certainly, I think they have a very good chance now. We've kind of talked on this. Can Coastal get up to the top 8? I think they absolutely have a great chance. Obviously, they're going to have to win their next 2 series. UL Monroe this weekend, they'll handle them. Then they have some team lower in the Sun Belt next weekend too. I think it will take them having to win the Sun Belt tournament as well to get to that top 8. But I think you can go ahead and lock them in as a host. What a season they've had. You look at their pitching staff, 3rd best ERA in the country, best in the Carolinas. It's been dominant all year. Ryan Lynch came in, closed that game out. I mean, I think he's got like a .70 ERA. So got that big out right there at the end of the game last night to get Canarella to pop up. But what an atmosphere. I couldn't even get a ticket. I was down in Myrtle for work this Monday and Tuesday. I was going to try to go to that game and then sold out, first sellout in school history, which I have a hard time believing though.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been an incredible game to see. I did see some people talking about Coastal possibly having State in their regional as a 2, which would be interesting because I think they were saying they've never been matched up together in a regional setting.
They have.
Oh, we have.
They have. The year they won the title. Do you not remember that, Colby?
Oh, it was? Okay. Then I must have seen something different.
They were, 4 outs away from getting eliminated before the rain came in?
By State?
And then implosion the next morning. Yeah, I was there that night. the rain game, but couldn't make it out there the next day. Yeah,
I didn't even realize that they
were
so
4 out. They were down. What was it? Weren't they down like 3 or something like that?
yeah, I can't totally
The weather
remember.
came in, and they came in. Weather came in. They said, "All right, we're finishing in the morning." State blew that game. Didn't y'all have to play again that Monday too?
I believe so. Yeah.
And then the rest is history.
Try to block that from my memory.
Well, that's why I guess it was 10 years ago now, so maybe we can say they haven't been put together in 10 years, and they're pretty close to each other, and they're often regional teams. So, anyways, that could be interesting. I don't think we have that one in our Field 64 right now, but Duke takes on Queens yesterday, 12-2 win for Duke. I saw Gracia homer, Ben Rounds multi-home run game. So Duke just continues to hit the ball. I didn't realize their series was at Clemson. I was thinking it was in Durham.
I thought it was at Duke as well.
It's going to be down in Clemson, and that'll also be on the pick'em. We will kind of save those picks for tomorrow when they come out, but that's a big series, guys. I mean, Clemson needs to bounce back in the biggest way. I mean, 2 straight series losses in the ACC. I think they're still going to get a double bye, right? I mean, unless they lose out or something.
They're the
right now.
Seed.
They wouldn't.
Yeah, they're the 6th seed right now. Yeah.
Good Lord, I need to get up on my ACC standings then, because I thought they were still like 3rd or 4th. But I guess there's too many teams.
It's tight. I mean, 1 through 6 is very close, but as of right now, they'd be the 6th seed.
Well, I think they're still going to be a host regardless. You would think.
Unless they lose their next 2. I mean, they're 1-6 in their last 7 games. I'm going to say they're safe to host right now, but I mean, you lose your next 2 series, they're not hosting.
Yeah. Well, we'll save some of the host talk for the Field of 64, but NC State does go to Wilmington and kind of returns the favor from last week, Colby, as they get a 14-4 win on the road against Wilmington. I saw Luke Nixon hit another home run to tie the game when they were down early. So he's had a big week and followed it up. It looks like the State offense just kind of came alive there in that game, Colby.
Yeah, it started off a little bit slow, but Luke got them going, tied up the game 3-3 with a 3-run bomb back in his hometown. He's from Wilmington, and he actually hit it off his high school teammate. I was hearing on the radio, which was funny, but so some bragging rights there. But yeah, State's offense got it going, and it was good to see Shane Van Dam back on the mound, first time in a year. Probably didn't go as well as he hoped, but he's back in live action. I'm sure he's happy about it. And they needed that after an 0-3 week last week. Got their quick revenge on Wilmington from midweek last week and the 2 games in Miami. So they needed some momentum going into this huge Carolina series starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly needed a win there. Like you said, Colby, after going 0-3 last week, and what probably could have been 0-4 if the rain doesn't play a part there. But a good win nonetheless for State in the midweek. I mean, UNCW's RPI was starting to creep up there, but I think it did drop back down into the hundreds, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah, State jumped 7 spots in
I saw
RPI
that
yesterday.
It had a big jump from that win, which was interesting. Okay, so that wraps up Tuesdays. We'll just run through Wednesdays right now. Which, can you guys check if that Upstate game is over? But
Upstate's Tech is adding on in top of the ninth. They're up 8-3 and still have runners on. So
okay, so that is the last game that's finishing up tonight. We do have 2 other games. Western Carolina walks off Presbyterian at home to get a 5-4 win, and then Citadel beats Winthrop 6-3, which Winthrop was hot coming into this one. I think they won. I don't know how many it is out of their last 6 or 8, but the Citadel does bounce back after getting pounded by Charleston last night to come back and win today in Winthrop. So that is the midweeks. Let's shift gears to Field of 64, and I'll kind of hand it over to you guys as I pull up this graphic. We'll kind of run through it a little quicker than we did last time, just to kind of keep it a little tighter. Let's see if I can share my screen here. So Reed and Colby, I guess, kind of run us through. Let's just go through each of the national seed or each of the hosts first, 1 through 16, and then
Okay.
we'll go through each region one by one after that. If you all want to do it like that. Okay, here we go.
All right. Yeah, Colby, we'll just do the same thing. I'll take one column, you do the next. All right. Yeah. Texas, coming off the sweep, getting swept this past weekend, down in Arkansas. First series loss of the year. No, there was a lot of talk about them across the country. They shouldn't be number one in the country right now. They still have the best resume in the SEC. Certainly, though, that number one spot is open for the taking. If Texas falters here a little bit, but for now, Texas, like I said, best resume in the country, number one overall. We have a new number two this week, FSU, coming off the big series win against Clemson. Right now in first place in the ACC. Noel's playing some really good ball. Big series looms next weekend. And then third overall national seed, we have North Carolina. Obviously they got a big weekend coming up here against NC State, and then obviously next week they're at Florida State. So the ACC race is going to be settled here with these big couple of series coming up this weekend and next. And then number 4 overall national seed, we have Arkansas moving up a spot. Big, they had lost 3 straight series coming in this past weekend, but dominated Texas. Zach Root looked phenomenal. 8 innings on Thursday. I think that series started Thursday night, right?
Yeah.
Thursday night, 11 strikeouts. He was sensational. Arkansas is the only team in the country with 40 wins.
Wow. I'll take over. Making their debut as a host, Oregon, even though Reed always says that the polls love them, but the metrics don't really love them. But they keep winning, so their RPI is getting up there, and we have them as the number 16 national seed. Number 15, West Virginia, who I believe lost to Pitt last night.
Yeah, blew a 4-run lead in the bottom of the ninth.
The backyard brawl.
Yeah, I think I read it was like that's Pitt's like first win in the backyard brawl in quite some time. Was it 8 years or something? I can't remember exactly what it was. But there are 15 national seed. UC Irvine, number 14 national seed, which we had them as a top 8, if I'm remembering correctly, last week. Yeah. And then they lost a series to UC San Diego, I believe, and dropped some. But they're still a 14. They're still hosting. And then at number 13 national seed, we have Arizona, which I don't think we had Arizona as a host last time. But
back in after the big series went against TCU this past weekend.
Yep. So some teams getting back in there, like Arizona and a team in Oregon, that 16 national team making their debut, because I don't think we've had them in our first 3.
Yeah, I think there's room for Oregon to continue to go up. They have Iowa next weekend. They keep winning. I mean, you take down Oregon, your biggest rival, Oregon State, 4 times. You beat them 4 times. That really shot them up in the RPI. Like I've always said, they're sitting 5 in the country, but the metrics have just hated them all season. I think they can get into the top 12 personally. Especially if they win that Big Ten tournament too. Irvine, though, I mean, I think if they lose one more series, that will cost them their hosting chances personally.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, there's some teams right on the bubble to host.
I mean, that was a bad series loss for them this past weekend.
Yeah, because UC San Diego's they're like not.
They're not like nothing special this year. Yeah. I mean, West Virginia. They play some of the top half of the Big 12. I know these upcoming next 2 weeks. I think if they win both series, they should be a lock to host. Certainly, they've tripped up a couple times over the past few weeks and midweeks.
Marshall.
But yeah, moving along, LSU losing the series to A&M this past weekend. But what a chance they have this upcoming weekend. Big series down in Baton Rouge. LSU welcomes Arkansas to town. That's a massive series. LSU wins that, probably would swap places with Arkansas, depending what the ACC teams do. Athens, and then number 6 overall national seed, we got Georgia. They are number 1 in RPI right now. But, they don't quite have some of the bigger series wins. Texas swept them. Not sure who else Georgia has. At Alabama this weekend, so that'll be a tricky series for them. But nevertheless. And then new national seed we have this week, Vanderbilt. They played an absolute gauntlet of a schedule, but they came back Sunday game to beat Alabama. I think they have 14 quad 1 wins already. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But they're playing I know they lost last night to Louisville. A little sneak peek. That was a really good game. I was able to catch a little bit of the end of that game. Then another new national seed we have is the Auburn Tigers. Huge series win this past weekend at Tennessee. They just keep winning. Auburn has some really big series wins. They're certainly a lock now, I'd say, to host. Obviously they won the series against Alabama too.
Number 12 national seed, we have Tennessee, who dropped down, I think, a couple spots after losing the series to, as Reed just mentioned, Auburn. They have a gauntlet last 2 series as well. They play Vanderbilt this weekend and then at Arkansas. So can really go either way. They could win those 2 series. They'll be a top 8. Lose those 2, might be close to the bubble. We have 11 national seed, Coastal, which further down we have Clemson, number 9, made this before the games. I think that could be flip-flopped. It's pretty dang close. Coastal and Clemson played twice this year, both midweeks, but Coastal won at Clemson and in Conway, so that's a pretty strong argument to flip them, in my opinion. Number 10, Oregon State. Reed, you said they lost 4-game series.
4 games, all 4 games to Oregon in a span of 5 days, or a span of 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah, so I bet they're saying they're not playing their best ball right now. So did we have them as a top 8 last week, Reed?
We had him 2 weeks ago before they got swept by Oregon. We had them sitting nicely in the top 5. But when you get swept, that's going to be a major damper.
For sure, and then touched on them, but Clemson is the number 9 national seed, and Reed said early in the show they're 1-6 in their last 7 games since coming to Raleigh. Got swept by NC State, lost 2 out of 3 at Florida State, and then lost last night to Coastal. So they have a huge series this weekend against Duke, so they need to get back on track.
Yeah, Clemson certainly with a big chance to get back on track against Duke. And I was just looking at my Omaha 8 just out of curiosity, and it looks like right now I've got 5 in my Omaha 8 that we have on this board as hosts, which is good for me. And then all 8 would be in the field. I don't know if you guys made Omaha 8s, but it's kind of fun to look back and see how you're doing. Anyways, let's run through each region now. Let's start back at Texas. We got Texas the 1, Dallas Baptist the 2, UTRGV the 3, and Holy Cross the 4. Reed, what do you think about this Austin regional if this were to play out this way?
Yeah, all Texas besides Holy Cross. But that would be a tough draw for Texas. Dallas Baptist, they're up to 19 in the RPI right now.
But so is Texas. So
they've been playing some really good ball the past couple months, and kind of slept on Conference USA has been pretty good this year. Obviously you look at Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State's been creeping up there. Liberty, what they've did against the ACC this year.
How close did you have Kennesaw State? Just out of curiosity. What? How close, to the bubble, did you guys have Kennesaw State?
They're a couple spots away. I mean, they're 24-22, but their strength of schedule is really good. I think it's top 40. Colby, I could be wrong.
They play.
Yeah, I think they're top 50. They were in our next 4 out. So
yeah, I mean, and they're like 14-6 in the Conference USA. They played such a gauntlet in the non-conference. They had a really bad record, but they're creeping up. 3 seed UTRGV. They're back in front in the Southland standings. Southland is really good. I know last night Texas took down Lamar, who really wanted that win. That would have really helped Lamar's chance to make the tournament. Would have shot them up in the RPI. Obviously, I would take Texas if this was the regional, but Dallas Baptist and UTRGV. What a first round game that would be. Then looking at the Florida State regional, we got Florida as the 2 seed. They've been on fire. I think they've won 13 out of their last 15 games. Some people have been saying, they win their next 2 series, they could be in line to host. I still don't think you deserve to host if you have a losing conference record, but I think if Florida were to win their next 2 series, they would finish with a over 500 record in the FCC. They've really recovered after a tough start. And keep in mind, if this were to happen, Florida won the midweek series against Florida State, beating them 2 out of 3 times.
Yeah.
Xavier.
Do you think Florida could do you think they're pretty safe to be a 2, or do you think they could be a 3 potentially?
I think they're safe right now as a 2. They keep playing the way they are. They make some noise in Hoover too. I think they have they would have a great chance to host too. I'm looking at right now who they have left. Well, speaking of, they play at Texas this weekend, and then Alabama at home. So, I mean, if they win that series against Texas this weekend.
Yeah. I was just going to say, the other thing about Florida and Florida State here is I believe both of their ADs are on the committee. Or both of them have committee reps, I should say. So you could see it might be one of those things where they kind of both are we don't want to play each other. They might keep them in separate regions, but it could be logical for them to be a 2 or a 3 in Florida State. I think you could see them in another one, maybe you could see them in one of the ACC hosts as a 2 potentially. But I mean, they were in Clemson's last year, was it right? Yeah, they won Clemson.
That was a super regional.
Okay, you're right. That was a super regional. Whose region were they in last year? Because they were a 3 last year, and that's where I'm getting this.
I'm looking right now.
Anyways, Xavier and Bethune-Cookman are the other teams in this region. I think Bethune-Cookman's probably as close as to a lock to be in Tallahassee's regional.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But Xavier's a team that could kind of be.
They were in the Stillwater regional last year.
That's what it was. Yeah, Stillwater. That's a team that could be on the bubble too. Xavier, with UConn threatening in the Big East, as well as Creighton is right there.
Yeah, Xavier's kind of struggled the past couple of weeks. Now they're pretty close to that bubble, I believe. Colby, weren't they one of our last 4 in?
Yeah, let me pull it up. Yeah, Xavier was in our last 4 in. So,
I like that.
Yes, I mean they have some work to do. Their RPI has taken a huge fall over the past few weeks. They were sitting top 20 not too long ago. Now it's, I think, down into the mid 40s.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along, though. Braxton, I'll ask you. I mean, do you think Florida State could there's a chance they could get that top overall seed?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think if they get a series win this weekend and beat Carolina next week, and then have a good showing in Durham, there's no doubt in my mind they could be the 1 seed. I think they probably will have to, like I said, win both of those series, and then at least
Need some help from Texas.
need some help from Texas and just
They
play
probably
really good
need to
ball in
win.
Durham.
Yeah, they probably need to win the ACC tournament.
You would think,
Yeah.
right? You would think.
I would imagine that's what's going to have to happen if whoever an ACC team, Carolina, Florida State,
if any of these top 4 win those tournaments, they're probably got a good chance to be a 1 or 2 seed overall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's go to the Chapel Hill regional. We got Carolina, which we wrote on there again. It's Chapel Hill, Ole Miss the 2, Cincinnati the 3, and Bryant the 4. Bryant the 4 was an interesting one. They're in the same conference as Long Island, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that would again be the what is it called? The South or the
Northeast.
The Northeast winner coming to Chapel Hill. Ole Miss is an interesting one because they're kind of borderline a host potentially. So to get them maybe in the 3s bracket would be an interesting one. But I think that you could definitely see a strong 2 SEC school in this region. It just depends on how Carolina finishes. And then Cincinnati was a bubble team for you guys, right?
Yeah, they weren't in the field as of last week, but big weekend for them. Went to Kansas and swept a really good Kansas team this past weekend. Cincinnati's got a lot of good wins. Obviously they opened the year up. They by taking down Duke. They've been playing really good. Their RPI is up there. I think they have 8 or 9 quad 1 wins too.
7, yeah.
7. I think they had the bizarre. What was it? They were 9-9 in like Q3, or was it Q4 games? They were 9-9 in.
They're 9-9 in quad 3, but 7-9 in quad 1. So it's just odd,
weird. All right, yeah, and then obviously Ole Miss. They're hosting. Chances took a big hit this past weekend, losing the series to Oklahoma, another team that is fighting to be a host spot. I think Ole Miss will probably have to win that, make it at least a run to the semis, possibly the championship in the SEC tournament to host, in my opinion. Looking at the Fayetteville regional, if I'm an Arkansas fan, I do not – any team really. I mean, who wants Miami in your regional with the way they've been playing? Arguably the hottest team in the country right now.
Yeah.
Boys, what's your thoughts on Miami right now?
If they play their cards right too, they could be a team that hosts. Honestly, I know that's crazy to say, but we've seen stuff like that happen where teams just get hot late and end up hosting a regional. I mean, it can happen very, very much so. And then
they're at Virginia this weekend.
Yeah, so they could essentially eliminate them almost, potentially, barring Virginia wins the ACC tournament. But
they end at Virginia and then Notre Dame.
Yeah, so I mean, those are 2 bubble teams right there.
Yeah, 2 bubbles.
And they definitely are good enough to beat both of those teams, whether on the road or at home. But yeah, definitely not a 2 you want to see in your region. No. And I think they will probably be in a region like Arkansas. I could see them in like Athens too. One of those big time SEC top 8s.
Yeah, most likely with the ACC teams that are 2s. I guess we have Duke as the exception on this field of 64. You're probably going to be shipped to SEC unless you go to Coastal.
Right.
Looking at Iowa, they had a very bad week. Lost 3 games this past week, including the series to Washington. They still sit in first place in the Big Ten, sorry. But their metrics are, like I've said all year long, have been terrible. If they don't win the Big Ten, they're going to be sweating it. Like if they don't win the Big Tournament, they're going to be sweating it, I think, on Selection Monday. They do have their best 2 series of the season coming up Oregon State at home this weekend, which is quite the bizarre series. And then they end with Oregon. So massive chance for the Hawkeyes to bounce back this weekend and obviously to clinch the Big Ten regular season, which would be an incredible accomplishment for them. But they're going to have to win some games. I mean, if they lose these next 2 series, they're going to to probably win the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
And then we got Missouri State. They're in a tight race, I know, in the Missouri Valley. I believe Southern Illinois is like a game or two back, who has 10 times the better record than Missouri State. So that'll be an interesting race.
Yeah, up to Oregon, the 2 and 3 seed. You got UTSA and Arizona State. Those are tough 2 and 3 seeds. I mean, UTSA, what's the record? It's like
36 and 10.
Yeah, 36 and 10, and they actually play at ECU this weekend. So I know ECU isn't the greatest this year, but that'll be a tough test. That's a rowdy environment in Greenville. Looking forward to see how they do.
They just need to win one game this weekend to clinch the AAC.
Yep. And Arizona State, we talked about them last week. They continue to play good ball. I think they weren't even really on our bubble read. I mean, they were pretty safely in.
No, I mean they have 32 and 17, 16 and 8 in the Big 12. Respectable 4 and 5 in quad one games.
Yeah.
I think they still have to play Arizona. So the Sun Devils are firmly in.
Yep, and then Oral Roberts rounding out that regional as an automatic qualifier. The Morgantown regional is probably.
One more thing on that, Eugene. Like I just want to say, like, if you're a guy that like doesn't know ball and you're just looking at this regional, you're probably thinking like on paper it doesn't look very tough. But like if you know ball, those three teams, like that's a very tough. That'd be a stacked regional up there in Eugene.
Yeah. And we know what Oral Roberts did. I mean, that'd be a rematch too.
Is very
Eugene Super Regional from 2 years ago.
But I just wanted to point that out there because there's obviously no ACC or SEC teams that we have in that region right now, and it's the 16. But like, there's very possibility that if Oregon's a host, like this could be an interesting region for sure. If those guys get sent up that way. But anyways, go ahead with Morgantown, Colby.
Back to, I could be off, but didn't you have Arizona State in your Omaha 8?
No, I really like them to win a regional, but I won't know about Omaha 8. I have A&M, which who knows? Carolina, Clemson, Dallas Baptist, LSU, Oregon State, Texas, and TCU.
Okay. I thought I remember you talking about Arizona State preseason.
I've been high on them. I couldn't put them in the Omaha 8. But
yeah, the Morgantown regional is probably my favorite out of all of them. Obviously with West Virginia being the host, I really like Duke as a 2 seed there. Duke's been playing really good. Obviously big series this weekend at Clemson. You know, they won that one, then they're probably solidified as one of the top 2s. And you have Kentucky, who is on the bubble. I think we had our last 4 in, but they're 10 and 14 in the SEC. They have 8 quad 1 wins though, so I find them to be pretty on the safe side right now. Obviously, the last 2 series will mean a lot, but I like them as a 3. And then Columbia rounding out the regional. How do you guys like this? This one just appeals to me, I guess, with Kentucky and West Virginia being so close, and I like Duke too in this regional.
Yeah, I like it. I think the last time West Virginia hosted, I believe Duke was in that regional up there in Morgantown back in like 2019, maybe when they
I'm pretty sure you're right about that. Yeah,
Alec Manoa and those guys. So that would be interesting. But I do like this regional. Columbia is not a pushover 4 either. That Ivy League race is tight for who comes out of that league with Yale right there as well as Penn. But Duke and Kentucky being in West Virginia's region would be tough for them to come out of that. I mean, they've obviously had a great year in the Big 12, but those are some different animals. If Kentucky can get in, of course, they're kind of right on that bubble as an SEC team. But we'll see.
Yep. Who do they have left? I'm just curious. Kentucky. It's going to be tough. Oklahoma this weekend, and then at Vandy. They're already sitting at 10 and 14 in SEC play, so you lose your next 2 series, they're going to be on the wrong side of the bubble.
Yeah. Moving west to Irvine, So with UC Irvine being the host, we have UCLA, which I think UCLA is one of those teams knocking to be a host. I mean, I think their metrics are really good. I think they have they're 15th in RPI, 11th strength of schedule. So they're right there. If they win their last two, maybe it depends.
Yeah, they lost the series this past weekend to USC, which kind of, had they won that series, we'd be talking about them as a host right now.
Yeah.
Still a chance, though, for UCLA. Like you said, their metrics are very good.
Yeah, I don't think the door is closed on them being a host. I think they still have an opportunity. Then the 3 seed Kansas, they've been kind of slipping recently, if I'm remembering correctly, Reed.
Swept this past. I mean, they got ranked for the first time and God knows how many years, and then swept by Cincy this weekend.
Yeah, and then the 4 seed San Diego is an automatic qualifier. Moving to Tucson, Arizona is the 1 seed. Southern Miss is a 2 seed out of the Sun Belt. That's always going to be a dangerous 2 seed. Wasn't Southern Miss a host the last 2 years or last year? Can't remember.
They hosted a Super.
They weren't a host last year. They were in Tennessee's regional last year, and then the year before they hosted a Super regional, but I don't think they hosted a regional that year.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's a dangerous 2 seed. Arizona's been playing well, but Southern Miss is with Troy and Coastal in the Sun Belt. He's the top 3 in the Sun Belt. Then you have the 3 seed Texas A&M, who picked up another big series win last week, and then this past weekend, I'm totally blanking on who they beat though. Was it LSU? Yeah. LSU. And we have them on the somewhat of the bubble as well, as I'm pulling up their metrics. I mean, they're just like with Kentucky. They're 10 and 14 in the SEC. They're 35th in RPI, 4th in strength of schedule, 6 quad 1 wins. We have them in our. We actually didn't have them in our last 4 in after their big series win against LSU, but they're still somewhat on the bubble, but they're pretty safe as of right now, wouldn't you say, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, they're a team I don't think anyone wants in their regional. Obviously, it's been a disappointing year for them, but with the amount of talent they have on that team, all it would take was a couple of weeks for them to get hot and play in Omaha. But their 6 quad 1 wins. Their 6 quad 1 wins they have are massive series. You look at Kentucky; they don't really have those marquee series wins. A&M, they've beaten Tennessee, they've beaten Arkansas, and they've beaten LSU. They got
and the Tennessee and Arkansas series were on the road, right? I think they're both on the road.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So not many other teams in the country have those series wins. I think it'll take something catastrophic from them. They play Missouri this weekend, so those are 3 free wins for them, and then they end with Georgia. But we know the history of the SEC. I mean, they finish 13 and 17, 14 and 16. They will be playing in a regional.
Yeah, I guess I kind of see similarities with them in Florida last year.
That's a good point.
Kind of just struggling to start the year and then kind of finding their way into the tournament by playing hot down the stretch, and everything's right in front of them to make a run, and I can definitely see it happening just like Florida did last year.
Absolutely.
And then the 4 seed New Mexico rounding out the Tucson regional.
All right, yeah, looking at the Baton Rouge, obviously we have LSU right there. We talked about them a few minutes ago. We got TCU as the 2. They lost this past weekend to Arizona. Don't think TCU will host a regional. Their metrics are really good. But, not winning the Big 12 regular season, I think, will cost them their chances to host. But certainly they would be one of the more dangerous 2s in the country. New team to the field. We have Notre Dame. They've been on fire recently, coming off the big series win against Louisville this past week in their third straight ACC series win. I believe that's 8 out of their last 9 games. They went from, not even being considered a few weeks ago, beating up on the West Coast teams, carried that momentum into this past week and taking down a really good Louisville team. They're started to crawl up in the RPI. They definitely still have some work to do. What are they? What's their ACC record right now? I'm looking.
I think it's 12-15.
12-15. That's that's still not good. I know they still have to play. Obviously, they end with Miami. Who they have this weekend? They just played Bowling Green this weekend. So, sweet Bowling Green. That Miami series is gonna be very big for the Irish. Looking at the Athens regional, got Georgia and Georgia Tech, and they've already played.
I think that happened last year too, didn't it?
Yeah,
Georgia Tech was it 3?
Mm-hmm. Obviously, a few weeks ago, like we've talked about before, Georgia Tech, was looking like a for sure host, but some pretty bad baseball has dropped them down to the 2. They got back on track though this past weekend against Western Carolina. They're still firmly in that ACC race. I think they're sitting at 15-9 in ACC play, so I mean they could still work their way back up into the hosting picture. If they win their next 2 series and make some noise in Durham. 3 seed Northeastern, they are very close to the 2 line. I don't think many teams in the country want to see them. I also don't think many people know about Northeastern, but Northeastern has the best ERA in the country. They've won 16 in a row, I believe that's the number, somewhere around that. They are on fire. Their RPI is all the way up to 33. So, I mean, we've seen them win some games in the NCAA tournament before. That would be an absolutely loaded regional for Georgia. And then obviously Central Connecticut State we have as their 4. Looking at the Nashville regional, obviously I said earlier, Vandy and Louisville played last night. Louisville won that game, I believe 5-4 was the final. I think that game was at Louisville. Braxton?
Yeah, I think it was 5-4.
Okay.
I think that's right.
Yeah, it was at Louisville, right?
Yeah.
Vandy still with some huge series left in SEC play. It feels like that. I just feel like Vandy has played every single top 10 team in the SEC this year. Louisville, obviously, like I said, they lost to Notre Dame this past weekend. They were kind of right there knocking on the door to host. I think it will take some work for them to be a host, personally. And then we look at UConn. UConn's still in that Big East race. They're currently in first place. That's a tight race. I think the Big East, though, is in good. If Xavier can finish strong, is in position, or maybe Creighton is in position to have 2 teams in the tournament. Then Wright State is the 4. They won their conference for the 7th regular season for the 7th year in a row, which is just an incredible accomplishment. And then looking at the Auburn regional, already touched on a little bit about Auburn, obviously beating Tennessee this past weekend. Have Wake as the 2. Wake, we've talked a lot about Wake, obviously, this year, boys, but you really just don't know what you're going to get. I mean, they could be on fire or they're going to be off. They struggled to beat Gardner Webb, beating them both by 1 run in their little mini series they had this past weekend. Certainly a 2, if everything clicked, could definitely make a deep run. Obviously, you look at that lineup; it's still very dangerous. If they can just figure out a little more of that pitching staff, it's a team I don't want in my regional. And then Troy staying in locally, they got crushed last night by Alabama. They are the only team in the whole country not to lose a series, but they just don't have the ability to sweep teams, which has kind of affected their RPI, but they're definitely still in safe and sound to me.
Do
And then
you think there's any danger that they don't get in by chance if they have a
uh,
tough, they play Southern Miss still?
do they? I don't.
I thought so
Let me look.
because I heard some talk today that they very much could be played out of the picture.
Yeah, I mean, you
There
look,
would be
they're
some
in
controversy, but
44 RPI, 89 strength of schedule. I mean, those
look,
certainly aren't the. I mean,
they
they're
could
still
be the
playing right
team
now
that
against Samford.
yeah, they could be the team that misses out where it's like a head scratcher type of deal because there's always one team
Yeah,
that's like And do they play Southern Miss? Can we
yeah.
confirm?
Next weekend they do.
Yeah, so I mean, but they what's crazy about them is I don't think they've like lost a series all year. They
No,
just
they're
haven't
the only team
swept.
in the country that hasn't lost a
Yeah,
series.
they just haven't swept anybody. But they were my pick to win the Sun Belt. But of course, with the year Coastal's having, um, it's looking like it's going to be Coastal to win the regular season. But
Mm-hmm.
that would be something if Troy misses out. I don't think they will. I think they'll get in.
No, I mean they had that series win against Coastal too.
That is true, and they're just too good of a team to leave out. Like
Yeah,
I just think this Sun Belt should be a 3-bid league. But
I agree.
Anyways, Fairfield is in there as well.
All right, up to Knoxville with State as the 2 seed. Obviously, we had State as a host in last week's Field of 64. But after going 0-3, their RPI was, I think, around 21 or 22. It dropped all the way down to 36 and just wasn't hosting material anymore after the week they had. So we had them as a 2. But after last night's win against Wilmington, they're back up to 29, I think I saw today. So, I mean, it's series win against Carolina. I think they're right back in that picture. And you have East Tennessee State as a 3 seed out of the SoCon. I believe they're 2 games up in first place over the trailing teams in second. And you have Austin P as the 4. I think they're 1 game up over Stetson, but it's going to be either or. If I had to guess, I think it could very well be Stetson or Austin P. It's going to all come down to the conference tournament for that conference. And then you have Coastal's regional with Oklahoma being the 2 seed. Solid team out of the SEC who they're not in the hosting picture, right, Reed?
Oklahoma, I mean, yeah, they beat Ole Miss this past weekend. They win their next 2 series. Definitely they will have a chance to host.
Did we have them as a host like 2 or 3 weeks ago?
No.
Okay, and then we have High Point as the 3 seed in the Big South. They're 1 game ahead of USC Upstate with some other contenders, I think, also in that conference. So, but High Point up as a 3.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Cole.
No,
I'll just say High Point. That was tough. We kind of ran out of 4 seeds, or we kind of ran out of 3 seeds. High Point, I think after losing to Charlotte last night, they're back to the 4 line.
For sure.
I think Austin P could play their way into a 3 seed. I think they're like 36-11. Or Stetson could play their way into a 3. So you could just swap them with High Point.
Yeah. And the 4 seed, this is SIUE, right? This is Edwardsville, not
yeah.
Yeah. So not to get this confused with Southern Illinois, this is Edwardsville. And then Corvallis Regional, Oregon State, obviously. Then USC as a 2 seed. Reed, talk some about USC. They've been playing really good ball.
Yeah, they've won 8 series in a row. Into the rankings for the first time all season and in many years. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time USC made the tournament. Obviously, they were a powerhouse way back in the day. But, what a season they had. Obviously, winning the series against UCLA this past weekend, that was huge. But certainly, like we said about Miami, USC is on absolute fire, and another team you do not want to see in your regional.
Agreed. And a 3 seed Cal Poly, they're in Irvine's conference. And did Irvine sweep them 2 weekends ago, or they take 2 out of 3?
Mm-hmm.
I think they swept.
They swept them.
Still in the field for Cal Poly, and then Sacramento State rounding out this regional. Then at Clemson regional, you have the 2 seed Alabama, which a week or two ago we had Alabama around the 12-13 as a host national seed, and they've fallen to a 2 seed. Western Kentucky as the 3 seed. They're kind of getting – a few weeks ago they weren't really close to the bubble. They were firmly in. It's kind of getting nail-biting time for Western Kentucky.
Yeah, they got swept 2 weekends ago by Middle Tennessee, and then they had the big sweep this weekend of Louisiana Tech. So actually last week we had them out, and then after what they did this weekend, because they also beat Kentucky midweek last week, which was a huge 4-0 week for them. But we have them in the last 4 now.
Yeah, is Western Kentucky the team that hasn't lost a home game?
I don't know about that. Maybe.
I'm not sure.
I will say.
Let me look.
I remember there's a team that was in the field that maybe had 1 loss at home. They had a crazy home record. I can't remember which team it was now.
I will say that 2 of the kind of bubble teams that we did leave out for this week do have committee members, and that is Kansas State and Southeast Louisiana. So you could see both of those teams get the nod over some of these borderline bubble teams, which you see it every year. I just want to throw that out there because both of those teams do have committee members, and they're right on the bubble.
Yeah, Western is 29-1 at home.
That's right. So they have 1 loss. Okay. I knew it was something. I thought it was Western Kentucky.
Certainly a great point, Braxton. We've seen it before. Just having someone on the committee makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So something to keep an eye on for sure in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we need to write down the committee members.
No, yeah, I saw 11.7s and they did that. Like they literally named all the schools that had committee members right at the beginning. So I was like, well, it's a good point.
It's a big resource to have.
Yeah. So that does it for our third or fourth one that we've done this year.
Fourth.
So we'll have another one next week, and then the week after that will probably be the last one, right? I'd imagine.
We'll obviously we'll have the one come out after this weekend. Let's do one. Let's have one out before the conference tournament, and then we'll make a final one. That's Sunday.
Yeah, if we can kind of speed through it, that will be our final one because the national hosts will get announced, won't they?
Yeah, I mean we could wait for the host to be announced, or I mean we could.
I kind of like the idea of like trying to get the host right though.
Okay. Yeah, I mean we could. We'll put one out there Sunday morning before championship Sunday for our final one.
Yeah, that'll work. And then we'll
maybe
on our Sunday show, we can kind of see how I guess
see who's in or out.
We'll figure out the scheduling, but we'll obviously let you guys know. But let's get into this weekend real quick. We're right at about an hour, so we'll kind of go through some of the series real quick. The pick'em is final. You'll see those picks tomorrow before the games start, probably sometime in the morning or early afternoon. Actually, I think there's a game at I'm thinking of Friday. There's 3 games tomorrow night that start, and then obviously one of those is our pick'em. So the pick'ems this week is NC State at Carolina, Duke at Clemson, Presbyterian at USC Upstate. Presbyterian has not been in the pick'em yet, so that's one team that we wanted to include. UNC Asheville is the other team. We're taking them at Charleston Southern, and then UTSA at East Carolina, which is obviously a big one for our ECU fan base. over there in Greenville. So those will be the pick'ems this week. Is there any other series, or if you guys want to talk about those ones that you guys have your eye on? Obviously, the headliner being State Carolina starting tomorrow night. But what are you guys eyeing up this weekend as we wrap up?
I just want to see. I fully expect it. Coastal, coming off the incredible win last night. That they keep their momentum in the right way. Don't want to afford a hiccup against a bad UL Monroe team on the road this weekend. So just take care of business, and Coastal's going to be hosting.
Yeah. One series I want to point out is Pittsburgh at Wake Forest. On paper, it doesn't sound like the toughest series. I know Pittsburgh isn't that good, but with this Wake Forest team, they've been very inconsistent. They need to take care of business this weekend. Pittsburgh just had that big win last night against West Virginia, kind of probably.
And Virginia Tech this past weekend.
That's right. So they've been playing good ball. It's a big series for Wake Forest to kind of just make sure they don't mess up, honestly. You can't really – you take care of business, you improve your standings for the NCAA tournament and ACC tournament. But if you lose it, you'll face some consequences falling down.
Yeah, some other big ones. There's 3 big ones really in the SoCon. Citadel at Western, Greensboro at Sanford, and then Wofford at East Tennessee State. I'm looking at that. Can Wofford kind of stay hot riding into that tournament against probably the best team in the SoCon right now? And then you've also got Elon at Campbell, which could have been borderline pick'em. I mean, those are 2 struggling teams a little bit this year, but Elon's been really hot as of late, and I think that they could go into Bowie's Creek and win that series, especially with Campbell kind of being down, especially after their loss this week to Carolina. UAB and Charlotte, that's a big one as well in the American. Kind of 2 teams that are like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, somewhere in there in the American. And the other one was George Mason at Davidson. I know, Colby, you were about to talk about that one. Probably you have it highlighted here. That's Davidson could beat them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Davidson is right up there in the A10 standings with George Mason being in first. I mean, this is a very big series for Davidson to stay relatively playing good ball in A10 play and facing top team in the conference. So it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and then the other couple that are like 2 Carolinas teams is College of Charleston at A&T and Gardner-Webb at High Point, which we touched on earlier. So some big ones this weekend. We're excited to watch it all play out. Hopefully we can get out to some games. I'll be there tomorrow at the Bosch. Hopefully, Reed, you can make it to something this weekend. We will have all.
Yeah, nevertheless, I'll be in Greenville to see this weekend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so you'll be in Greenville.
Yeah. So.
Nevertheless, we will have all the coverage right here on our Twitter or our X, and just be looking out for those as we just kind of end the season here in the next couple of weeks. We will have a show Sunday night. Mother's Day is Sunday, so be sure to do something nice for your mom. Shout out to all the moms out there. None of this would be possible without you guys, so we love you. And be sure to take your mom to the ballpark. That's what I might do. I might bring her out to the Bosch for that Sunday game, but we'll see. All right, fellas, any last comments before we end the show?
Almost the weekend.
It's only Wednesday, Robin. It's only Wednesday.
It's kind of throwing me off because we do these on Thursday nights usually. So it's kind of
it feels like the weekend. It feels like the weekend tomorrow.
Well, we got baseball tomorrow, so that's all that matters. All right. Well, we will see everybody on Sunday night. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, thank you as well. We hope everyone has a good weekend, and we'll see you Sunday.